Chapter 421. Devil class students don't have any holidays. Yiqing Luo's lips curled slightly as she placed her hands behind her back. Today is your free time, but tomorrow before 5 in the morning, you must report to the Mercenary Association's entrance. Mercenary Association? The students' eyes widened as they more or less guessed Yiqing Luo's plan. Your abilities aren't bad, but you don't have any bit of actual combat experience. Yiqing Luo ignored the shock in their eyes. Setting up a mercenary group and accepting missions for you to complete is the best way to increase your actual combat experience. Xiao Jin continued, as for the accommodation for these 3 days, I've already arranged it. After you leave the academy, you can move to the mansion in the west of the city. The students immediately cried out. Some were cheering while some were wailing. In the process of completing the mission, there is a possibility that you will meet other mercenary groups and compete with you for the mission items. Yiqing Luo's clear and melodious voice rose slightly. Her voice was gentle, but her aura suppressed the voices of the students. The outside world is not as clean as the academy. By then, if there are mercenary groups snatching items, it will be up to you to decide how you want to do it. The students tensed up. In this way, setting up a mercenary group was not only to complete missions but also to fight with other mercenary groups. Thinking about it, it made them a little excited. Our aim is not to create trouble, but we are absolutely not afraid of trouble. If you are the one who creates trouble, I will not stop Vice Class Monitor from punishing you. But if anyone dares to offend us, I will be the first to go up. The students clenched their fists as they replied valiantly, yes. It was a holiday and the academy was obviously livelier than usual. The students who came and went had excited smiles on their faces. The academy's entrance was filled with people. Those elders from the families were all here to welcome their families, hope, and glory. Devil classes students were disguised as ordinary students as they left the academy one by one. Yiqing Luo guessed that during this holiday, the Yi family would not be peaceful. She rejected the few who wanted to leave the academy with her and entrusted Kitty Li to Ni Roapan. She had to admit that Yiqing Luo's intuition was very accurate. Before she reached the courtyard's entrance, she saw Yiqing Qian, who was being crowded by the crowd, smiling shyly, but her eyes were filled with unconcealable delight. A few female students gathered around her, talking about something. Yiqing Qian smiled coquettishly, covering half of her face shyly from time to time. Seeing Yiqing Luo, Yiqing Qian immediately welcomed her with a smile. Seventh sister, let's go back together. Classmate Qing Qian, why did you drag her home with you? Although they are both daughters of the Three Springs sect, one is from the High Profound class, the other is from the Devil class. A female student beside her rolled her eyes in disgust. Exactly. If people were to see us, they would think that we are as useless as the Devil class. I don't even want to admit that such a person is a student of our academy. It's so embarrassing. Every single word around her were praising Yiqing Qian and belittling Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Qian's pair of beautiful eyes that were pretending to be gentle were filled with a complacent smile. But Yiqing Qian still rebuked the few people who were talking. Stop talking, seventh sister is after all my sister. Chapter 422. She had been in the hospital for almost a month and hadn't seen him for a long time. If she had the time to watch Yiqing Qian act, she might as well visit Xiao Yu and care about his health. Yo, student Ye's temper isn't small. Since when did we act? Don't tell me we said something wrong. Isn't the Devil class a waste class? Did you think that you're not waste just because you were in the limelight during the freshman training? Aren't you still being punished by the instructors to the extent that you can't even take part in the training? Devil class is a waste class and you still want to take part in the interclass competition 8 months later. I wonder what face you have to say such a thing. Heavenly Academy will be destroyed in the hands of you waste sooner or later. One after another, ridiculing voices made the surrounding students cast their gazes over. The position they were standing at was coincidentally not far from the entrance of the courtyard. Those parents who came to fetch their sons and daughters also looked over when they heard these students' words. When their gazes fell onto Yiqing Luo, they were all stunned by this lady's looks. But hearing that she was a student of Devil class, no matter how beautiful her looks were, it was obliterated by the 3 words devil class. Towards other people's gazes, Yiqing Luo had never put it to heart. Yiqing Luo's gaze sunk slightly as her lips curled into a sneer. She pinched her own hand and twisted her neck. Looks like you all missed the taste of my fist. Hearing the cracking sound of Yiqing Luo's bones, these female students' faces turned pale as they subconsciously hid behind Yiqing Qian. This action made Yiqing Luo scoff coldly. Even a waste is so afraid, you intermediate profound class students are merely so. Saying that, she walked past these few people and walked out of the courtyard. Yiqing Qian's gentle brows creased slightly as she scolded these useless female students in her heart. Seeing that Yiqing Luo had already walked out of the courtyard, Yiqing Qian immediately chased after her. Before she could call out to Yiqing Luo, she heard a clear voice coming from the front, Qing Qian. Yiqing Qian's heart trembled as her face revealed a joyful expression as she raised her beautiful eyes and looked towards the direction of the voice. She saw Ling Fenghua standing in front of a luxurious carriage. And in front of the carriage, there was a row of imperial guards. It looked extremely eye-catching. He had gained a lot of face. Yiqing Qian's face was flushed with shyness as her pair of beautiful eyes were about to burst into tears. The female student beside her covered her chest with both hands and teased, "Classmate Qing Qian, I told you His Royal Highness would come. Look, what an extravagant show. His Royal Highness the Crown Prince is so handsome and powerful. He treats Qing Qian so well that I can't find any fault with him." Student Qing Qian, since His Highness the Crown Prince personally came to the academy to pick you up, does that mean your wedding date is near? Yiqing Qian's delicate face turned even redder as she stomped her feet. What nonsense are you talking about? Like a little girl, she shyly broke away from the hands of the female students and jogged towards Ling Fenghua. The female students behind her knew that she was in a good mood, so they became bolder and teased her. What nonsense are you talking about? Look at how excited you are to see your sweetheart. Your Highness. Yiqing Qian trotted forward, a pair of beautiful eyes rippling like spring water. She was panting when her feet seemed to have bumped into something as she suddenly staggered and cried out in surprise. Ling Fenghua stretched out his hand and coincidentally caught Yiqing Qian in his arms. Slow down, you're in such a hurry. If others saw you, they would only think that you're the eldest miss of the Yi family who doesn't know etiquette. Although he said so, but the pampering in his tone was obvious. Chapter 423. Ling Fenghua's identity was outstanding, and he had put on such a big show. At the crowded entrance of the academy, the gazes of countless people were basically gathered on Ling Fenghua. There were also many family elders who wanted to greet Ling Fenghua after seeing him, but they were stopped by the imperial guards. At this moment, on seeing Yiqing Qian and Ling Fenghua's lovey-dovey look, everyone could see it clearly. It was only the academy's holiday, yet Ling Fenghua had set up such a grand display, and even personally welcomed them. Everyone was guessing that the Three Springs sect and the royal family, were they preparing for marriage? Everyone then recalled what the female student had said earlier, and they all nodded in agreement. This was indeed the déjà vu of the wedding day approaching. Yiqing Qian could feel the envious gazes from the surrounding, feeling that she was like the moon surrounded by stars. Everyone was surrounding her, praising her, envying her. She enjoyed this feeling too much. The depths of Yiqing Qian's eyes were filled with a complacent expression. However, the expression on her face was still as gentle as a spring breeze. With a voice as gentle as water, she said softly, "Your Highness is busy with official business. In fact, there is no need for you to personally," before he could finish his words. Her soft and delicate body that was stuck close to Ling Fenghua was pushed away by Ling Fenghua. The man's handsome face lowered his eyes to look at her. Yiqing Qian looked away shyly, her voice was soft and charming. "Your Highness, you're so annoying, where is Qing Luo?" These two voices sounded at the same time. Before Yiqing Qian's tempting ending tone could hook up, she heard Ling Fenghua's question. The smile on his face froze. Seeing Yiqing Qian not replying for a long time, Ling Fenghua narrowed his eyes and repeated once again, "Qian, where's Qing Luo?" "Your Highness, why are you looking for seventh sister? Yi Qingjian quickly regained her senses and suppressed the displeasure in her heart, maintaining the gentle smile on her face. Leng Fenghua curled his thin lips, but his eyes were fixed on a certain spot in the crowd. Suddenly, he raised his voice. She is this prince's future crown princess. This prince naturally came to take her home. This time round, the smile on Yi Qingqian's face couldn't be maintained. Her face turned extremely pale in an instant. Her soft body trembled uncontrollably. Leng Fenghua's words were like a ruthless slap on her face. The beating was loud and clear. Leng Fenghua's voice was extremely loud. Like a clap of thunder, it exploded in everyone's ears. The information contained in these words was really huge. Could it be that Leng Fenghua's extravagance today was not to pick up Yi Qingqian, but to pick up the Yi family's seventh young miss who had been a waste for more than 10 years? Only then did everyone remember that Leng Fenghua and the Yi clan's trash seventh young miss were engaged by the monarch himself. Then, Yi Qingjian actually ran over like a butterfly the minute she saw Leng Fenghua, and even hooked onto his arm. What was she trying to do? Earlier Yi Qingqian's bunch of lackeys said that the crown prince was a perfect man and the wedding date was nearing. What were they up to? Everyone's gazes towards Yi Qingqian had changed from the original envy to disdain and ridicule. The number one beauty of Three Springs City was quite pretty, and her cultivation talent was strong too. However, his character was so low. Chapter 424. Eldest Miss Yi has indeed hooked up with the crown prince. The last time eldest Miss Yi went to the public square to find trouble with student Yi Qingluo, student Yi Qingluo said that there was something going on between them. At that time I didn't think so, but now I've seen it with my own eyes. This atmosphere, this stance, they must have hooked up for more than 3 years. Shoo, lower your voice. If the crown prince hears this, we'll be the unlucky ones. They can even do such a thing. Are they afraid that we'll say anything? Look at them, they're already stuck together. The surrounding students muttered softly, as they rushed towards Leng Fenghua's direction, pointing and gossiping. After Leng Fenghua raised his voice and said that sentence, he regretted it. But the words had already been said, and there were so many people who heard it, it was impossible to take it back. At this moment, the surrounding people's gazes were like needles, staring at him, as they described the matter between him and Yi Qingqian, in an extremely filthy manner. Although, Leng Fenghua and Yi Qingqian had indeed hooked up for many years. However, this was their private matter. Now that it was brought out in front of so many people, he, the crown prince of a country, was completely disgraced. Especially now that the royal family was in turmoil, this stain of his could possibly affect his position as the crown prince. Thinking of this, Leng Fenghua couldn't wait to give himself a big slap. He had always been cautious in his words and actions, and was very clear that any words and actions could possibly be used against him by the enemy. But he had not expected, today, in front of so many people, he had committed such a lowly mistake. The Academy's entrance was not only filled with people from the West Continent, nor were they only from influential families. From all over the world, there were people with all kinds of statuses in Nirvana realm. Today's topic would definitely spread at an extremely fast speed in the entire Nirvana realm. Leng Fenghua's heart was crying out in frustration, as his gloomy face suddenly pushed Yi Qingqian away. His vision went past Yi Qingqian, looking towards somewhere in the crowd. However, he discovered that the delicate figure that he had been longing for had disappeared without a trace. He intentionally said that he was here to fetch Yi Qingluo, intentionally said it to Yi Qingluo. They weren't too far apart, so no matter how noisy the surroundings were, Yi Qingluo would definitely have heard what he said. But not only did Yi Qingluo not take the initiative to look for him, she was nowhere to be seen. The minute he thought that because of her, the surrounding people had suspected the relationship between him and Yi Qingqian, Leng Fenghua's heart was filled with rage. After Yi Qingluo walked out of the courtyard, she saw Yi Fengyu, who had been standing obediently at the entrance, waiting for her. After nearly 20 days, Yi Fengyu had grown a lot taller, and his body had also become a lot sturdier. Yi Qingluo's eyes curved. Little Yu. She quickly walked forward and grabbed Yi Fengyu's wrist. His wrist was no longer as thin and weak as before. It already had the feel of solid muscle. It had only been 20 days, yet Yi Fengyu had changed so much. It seemed like old man Guiyu did not forget to train Yi Fengyu when he was the teacher of the devil class. Sister. When Yi Fengyu saw Yi Qingluo, a smile appeared on his delicate face. He was just about to stretch out his hand to take his sister's luggage, but discovered that Yi Qingluo's hands were empty. Yi Qingluo rubbed his head. The dormitory has been destroyed, the things inside can't be kept, and there's nothing valuable inside. Chapter 425. Put your mind on training, don't keep paying attention to my sister. Yi Qingluo's hand, which was rubbing his head, suddenly increased in strength as she gave him a hard slap. Yi Fengyu hugged his head in pain. I'm just worried about you. Is your sister's hand someone to worry about? The siblings chatted on, totally not paying attention to the situation over at Leng Fenghua's side, so naturally they didn't hear the words that he deliberately raised his volume to tell her. Just as she was preparing to return to Three Springs sect, a few students suddenly appeared in front. Student Yi, Crown Prince is here to pick you up personally. What are you still doing here? His Highness the Crown Prince treats you so well. Earlier your eldest sister thought that Crown Prince was here specially to pick her up, so she pretended to be shy. Who knew? Crown Prince said he was here to pick you up. Student Yi, hurry over, don't let Crown Prince wait for too long. I can't wait to see Yi Qingqian's sullen face. She really thinks of herself as a goddess. Looking down on other students, but still being outdone by her own sister. Still trying to snatch her own sister's fiancé, only her face is big enough to do such a thing. These female students had obviously been bullied by Yi Qingqian daily. This was a rare chance for Yi Qingqian to lose her face in public, so they naturally wouldn't let it go. Hence, one by one, they started to search for Yi Qingluo. Once they found her, they crowded around her and pushed her into the crowd. Yi Qingluo was still in a daze when she heard a joyful voice, Qingluo. She saw Leng Fenghua walking over with an earnest face. His face was filled with his usual refined and warm smile. He walked to Yi Qingluo's side and stretched out his hand to grab her wrist. His eyes were filled with worry. I heard that you were attacked. Are you injured? After I heard this news, I have been so worried that I couldn't eat or sleep. His voice was gentle and filled with affection. Like a young lad who had his first awakening of love, with a trace of bashfulness and a trace of cautiousness. I know today is the school's holiday, so I immediately came to pick you up. Now that I see that you are fine, I can rest assured. If it wasn't for the fact that she knew Leng Fenghua's true colors, Yi Qingluo would have been deceived by his superb acting skills. Whereas for Yi Qingjian, who was standing by the side, her entire face was sunken as she stood stiffly by the side with an awkward and embarrassed expression. She pretended to be sentimental as she went up to Leng Fenghua, intentionally flaunted her love, but when Leng Fenghua questioned Yi Qingluo, and even said that he was here to fetch Yi Qingluo, she was given a tight slap on her face. But now, Leng Fenghua had ignored her, and treated Yi Qingluo with eagerness and gentleness. That was like sprinkling a handful of salt on her wound. Leng Fenghua's eyes were obviously drooling over Yi Qingluo. Furthermore, after Yi Qingluo had stirred things up, Leng Fenghua had never mentioned the topic of marrying her again. Yi Qingqian was trembling with rage. She had given everything to Leng Fenghua. She had given her entire life to Leng Fenghua, but in the end, this was the result? She would never accept this. In his heart, an inexplicable flame of jealousy burned incessantly. Yi Qingluo's eyes narrowed slightly, as she faintly glanced past Yi Qingjian, who was shooting a hateful gaze at her, as her lips curled into an arc of ridicule. I've troubled your highness. Chapter 426. Banquet. Leng Fenghua had never set up any banquet for her. Yi Qingqian's body trembled even more violently. The hands hidden in her sleeves clenched tightly into fists. She had to suppress the rage in her heart and maintain her image in front of everyone. Yi Qingqian was angry, but Yi Qingluo smiled charmingly, that pair of long and narrow eyes that could charm all living beings, her eyebrows curved, seducing one's soul. For a moment, Ling Fenghua almost went into a daze. He secretly cursed himself for being blind in the past, to give up such a stunning beauty and insist on a secret meeting with Yi Qingqian. Today, he had almost ruined his reputation. In order to wash away the rumors between him and Yi Qingqian, he wanted to release all his love for Yi Qingluo. Qingluo, it must be tiring to stand and talk, let me help you into the car. Ling Fenghua held Yi Qingluo's arm, looking like a 24 filial fiancé. You. Let go of my sister. Yi Fengyu's face was ashen, he threw the luggage on the ground and rushed forward, pulling Yi Qingluo behind him. Towards Ling Fenghua, he had no good impression at all. Outsiders might not know, but as a member of the Yi family, he was very clear about it. Ling Fenghua and Yi Qingluo were obviously engaged, but he still wanted to mix around with Yi Qingqian. If it was other women, it was normal for a man to have 3 wives and 4 concubines, especially as the crown prince, there was no lack of women around him. But that woman was Yi Qingqian. Without the woman's soft arm in his hand, and that unique fragrance, Ling Fenghua inexplicably felt an emptiness in his heart. He subconsciously stretched out his hand, trying to grab Yi Qingluo's hand. However, Yi Fengyu's back was as straight as a ramrod, not giving him any chance to touch his sister. That protective look made Yi Qingluo couldn't help but laugh out loud. It seemed that the training in the academy, not only had his body changed, even his character had changed. If it was in the past, Yi Fengyu would never dare to use such an attitude to face Ling Fenghua. Xiao, you go back first. Yi Qingluo put her hand on Yi Fengyu's shoulder and gently moved his body in front of her. Since the crown prince has invited me, how can I not go? Sister, Yi Qingluo raised her head and squinted at Yi Fengyu. Yi Fengyu stopped speaking, pursed his lips, and moved away unwillingly. Yi Qingluo's lips curled into a smile as she gently patted his shoulder. At the same time, Yi Qingluo suppressed her voice to a volume that only the both of them could hear. Find some time in the afternoon to go to the Western Mansion and look for a Mr. called Xiao Jin. Say he's my younger brother and just listen to his arrangements. With that, she had already walked towards Ling Fenghua's direction. When Ling Fenghua heard that Yi Qingluo had actually agreed to the matter of the banquet, his face revealed an ecstatic expression as he immediately stretched out his hand to support Yi Qingluo. Yi Qingluo acted as though she didn't see him as she flipped over and leapt onto that carriage. Ling Fenghua was startled, but he was not angry. He got on the carriage with a smile. Yi Qingqian gritted her teeth as she clenched her fists tightly, as a vicious look surfaced on her face. That pair of eyes under the long hair stared fiercely at Yi Qingluo as though it was laced with poison. Eldest young Miss Yi seems to be very dissatisfied with this highness. Ling Fenghua narrowed his eyes. How could he not feel Yi Qingqian's hatred? In order to make the surrounding people believe that there was no relationship between him and Yi Qingqian. At this moment, the expression on Ling Fenghua's face was as cold as ice. His eyes revealed a sliver of indistinct warning. Chapter 427. Only then did Ling Fenghua's expression become slightly better. He gave a cold harumph and flicked his sleeves. I'll have to trouble eldest Miss Yi to send 8th young Master Yi back to his residence, and also to inform Patriarch Yi and old ancestor that Qingluo has been brought to the Crown Prince Palace by me. Just a second ago, it was still gentle and sweet. She thought that she would become the object of envy in the eyes of all the students today. But in the next second, reality completely crushed her. She was ordered around by Ling Fenghua in front of everyone. At this moment, although she was filled with anger, she still smiled delicately and said, "Yes, Qian understands." Ling Fenghua withdrew his gaze and entered the carriage. The group of people left in a mighty manner. The scene was extremely grand. Yi Qingqian's mouth was filled with dust from the clatter of the horse's hooves. She tried her best to restrain her emotions. The long hair on the side of her cheeks scattered, concealing her venomous resentment and gloom. The surrounding students and parents were filled with envy towards Yi Qingluo and praising Ling Fenghua. All of them were certain that Ling Fenghua's action was to let Yi Qingluo officially marry into the family. Classmate Yi is so lucky to have such a good fiancé. If it were me, I would definitely faint from happiness. That's right, that's right. His Highness the Crown Prince is so busy every day, but he's still so concerned about student Yi. He especially found out about the holiday and personally came to pick student Yi up. It's so heartwarming. Of course, although student Yi is placed in the devil class, but her strength is obvious to all. She was beautiful and powerful, so of course the Crown Prince would like her. Unlike some people who shamelessly seduce their future brother-in-law and even think of ways to smear their own sister's name. That's right. If I were the Crown Prince, would also choose student Yi. The surrounding discussions were in full swing, and although they had intentionally suppressed their voices, but Yi Qingqian could still hear it clearly. She was so angry that her body trembled. Originally, the one who should be envied was her. This glory belonged to her. It was all Yi Qingluo's fault. It was Yi Qingluo, that slut. He took away everything that belonged to her. Just by taking the title of the first wife's daughter, she could become the young lord of the Three Springs sect and be engaged to Ling Fenghua. Why? These were supposed to be hers. A sharp glint flashed past Yi Qingqian's eyes as she speedily chased after the carriage without giving him a glance. Yi Fenyu thought that she was embarrassed and wanted to leave first. He didn't think too much about it and picked up his luggage to go home. Crown Prince Palace. The resplendent and magnificent palace was imposing and magnificent. At this moment, the huge garden was filled with countless exquisite delicacies. Ling Fenghua had indeed chosen a good place. Sitting here for a meal, if the other party was someone else, Yi Qingluo would definitely be able to have a full meal. Ling Fenghua had been staring at Yi Qingluo's face all this while. Seeing that she was surveying the surroundings without any signs of disgust, he secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He and Yi Qingluo were sitting face to face, separated by a long table in the middle. Royal Father had always said that the flowers in this highness's garden are extremely splendid and colorful. But when Qingluo sits here, she is more beautiful than the flowers, and the surrounding flowers lose their color. Ling Fenghua was holding a wine glass, his black eyes were infatuated, and he didn't even try to hide his love for her. When Yi Qingluo heard that, she scoffed lightly as her long and narrow eyes rippled with a trace of cold smile. Oh? Your Highness is questioning the monarch's foresight? No, it's not that. Ling Fenghua choked as his expression turned embarrassed. His main point was obviously to praise Yi Qingluo for being more beautiful than the flowers. Why did Yi Qingluo place the main point on the first half of the sentence? Chapter 428. Ling Fenghua smiled calmly, and revealed a trace of flattery. Qingluo is exceptionally intelligent. This highness knows that my thoughts can't be hidden from you. Yi Qingluo rolled her eyes and scoffed. Don't say it as if she knew him very well. She didn't have the leisure to guess Ling Fenghua's thoughts. It was just that Ling Fenghua's performance was too obvious. Ling Fenghua raised his wine glass towards Yi Qingluo. Since Qingluo has already come straight to the point, then I shall not beat around the bush. He downed the wine in his cup in one gulp. His actions were noble and elegant, like a prince of a country. Only, after he placed it on the wine cup, his gaze towards Yi Qingluo became earnest again. That day in the magic beast forest, Qingluo seemed to be able to tame mirage beasts and even ride on the mirage beast's back. Is there any special method? As expected, long ago when Ling Fenghua raised the invitation, Yi Qingluo had already guessed his motive. She had more or less heard about the recent turmoil in the royal family. Although Ling Fenghua had always been the crown prince since he was born, his foundation was really not solid. In the royal family, as long as there was evidence to prove that he wasn't the best candidate, then he would be deposed. Ling Fenghua was originally outstanding because of his cultivation talent. But now, no matter how hard he tried, he was unable to touch the barrier to break through. Especially recently, because of Yi Qingluo's matter, it caused his reputation to not be good. Ling Fenghua was naturally very anxious. The only way was to break through to the Earth Profound Realm as soon as possible and become the first prince to step into the Earth Profound Realm. his position as the crown prince would be secure. The last time Leng Fenghua appeared in the magic beast forest, it was to find the magic crystal gems. He wanted to break through. In the end, Yiqing Luo appeared and messed up all the plans. If Leng Fenghua wanted to advance, he would definitely come to find her. Qing Luo, if you are able to teach this highness the ability to tame mirage beasts, this highness promises you that the future empress of the West Continent will definitely be you. Leng Fenghua saw that she didn't reply for a long time, and his heart became anxious, and he immediately opened up a new condition. If he could secure the position of crown prince, Yiqing Luo would also be able to secure the position of crown prince's imperial concubine. In future, when he succeeded the throne, he would immediately confer Yiqing Luo as his empress. He was only below one person and above tens of thousands. He believed that no woman in the world could escape from such a promise. However, after Leng Fenghua said these words, Yiqing Luo still held on to a smile which didn't look like a smile, and didn't make a sound. The more she did not speak, the more Leng Fenghua's heart was beating like a drum. Now that he had a request for Yiqing Luo's help, he didn't dare to display his crown prince's attitude. Leng Fenghua was very clear that Yiqing Luo was not an obedient lady. If the hard way didn't work, then he would use the soft way. Adding on to the sufficient benefits, an intelligent lady like Yiqing Luo would definitely make the best choice. Leng Fenghua poured another cup of wine. Qing Luo, consider it carefully, this highness really likes you. In the future you will also be this highness' wife. If you help this highness now, you are also helping yourself. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes slightly as an enchanting ray of light flashed past. She put her index finger on her lips and covered her mouth as she chuckled. If eldest sister heard what your highness said to me, how sad would she be? I have nothing to do with eldest Missy. Leng Fenghua immediately shook his head, as he spoke righteously. Since this highness is your fiancée, then eldest Missy is also this highness' future sister. No matter how lustful this highness is, I will absolutely not do such a rude thing. Chapter 429. This tone was filled with concern, mixed with traces of affection. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes as she looked at him with a faint smile. Leng Fenghua's face was filled with righteousness, as though this kind of slander had caused him great harm. Yiqing Luo laughed coldly in her heart and was about to open her mouth when her vision suddenly caught a slender figure. Yiqing Qian followed along. Most likely, she had heard everything that Leng Fenghua had said just now. She wondered how Yiqing Qian would feel when she heard the man whom she loved dearly slandered her because of another woman. Yiqing Luo smiled but didn't say a word. Leng Fenghua persisted. Qing Luo, this highness is your fiancé, you should believe in this highness. Saying that, he observed Yiqing Luo's expression and boldly stretched out his hand, trying to hold Yiqing Luo's hand. Just as his hand stretched out, Yiqing Luo's body leaned backwards and the hand which was placed on the table slid onto her lap. One hand brushed the long hair by the side of her face, curling it on her fingertips as she gave a charming smile. If I said that I don't have any special method to subdue mirage beasts, will your highness still say these words? This highness's heart has always only had you. Leng Fenghua's eyes were filled with sincerity. If you don't believe me, after this highness breaks through to Earth Profound stage, this highness will immediately propose marriage to Three Springs sect, to marry you. Yiqing Luo smiled. Her fiery red lips curled into a teasing smile. That radiant and beautiful face, those long and narrow eyes were curved, displaying an enchanting charm. This smile had mesmerized Leng Fenghua's eyes, captivated his heart. This made Leng Fenghua full of confidence as he raised his wine cup, raising it towards Yiqing Luo. This highness will definitely let you see this highness's sincerity towards you. Yiqing Luo's jade fingers held the wine cup in front of her as she shook it gently. Marry me? The lady's enchanting voice was like pearls falling onto a jade plate, crisp and clear. Leng Fenghua's eyes lit up. Indeed, facing power and status, no lady could escape from this temptation. He immediately nodded and smiled warmly. Yes, I will marry you and make you my only crown princess. You will be the future emperor-empress. Yiqing Luo's lips curled upwards as she gave a charming smile. But she just smiled and didn't say anything. She didn't respond to him. Leng Fenghua didn't rush her, as he eagerly helped Yiqing Luo to arrange the dishes, and raised his wine cup, to toast Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo's charming eyes were suffused with a trace of destructive radiance. Her jade fingers that were hooked around the wine cup gently caressed the wine cup, immediately pasted it on her pink lips and drank the wine into her mouth. Leng Fenghua's eyes suddenly lit up. Although he concealed his expression very well, the uncontrollable smile on his face revealed his current mood. Yiqing Luo pretended not to see his strange emotions and put down the wine cup, just for a way to tame mirage beasts. Your Highness has sacrificed yourself. Her voice was filled with mockery. The corner of his mouth curled up into a smile full of ridicule. But Your Highness, have you forgotten that I had already divorced Your Highness when you and Big Sister were secretly having an affair and trying to break off the engagement? The smile on Leng Fenghua's face froze. Yiqing Luo slowly stood up, her devastatingly beautiful face held a dazzling smile. Your Highness, are you trying to enjoy the bliss of having 2 wives? But Your Highness should think carefully on how to explain to Big Sister. Saying that, her vision swept directly towards a corner, as her lips twitched with a smile which didn't look like a smile. What do you mean? Leng Fenghua's expression tightened as he followed Yiqing Luo's gaze. Chapter 430. Qing Luo, you can't leave. Leng Fenghua immediately stood up and wanted to chase after her. But before he could straighten his body and raise his hand, his entire body went limp as though he had no energy at all. A surge of raging fire was burning within his body. He fell onto the long table and half of his body had already covered the exquisite delicacies on the long table. His body was stained with quite a bit of soup, but he didn't even have the energy to move. His entire body was burning with that burning feeling. You must be wondering what on earth is going on. Yiqing Luo stopped in her tracks as she looked down at Leng Fenghua, who was sprawled on the table. Her smile was still as bright as a flower. The coldness amidst the laughter was like frost. Leng Fenghua's face was filled with astonishment as his trembling finger pointed at Yiqing Luo. You didn't. Curious why I had obviously drunk this cup of wine, but the one who was drugged is you? Yiqing Luo directly repeated Leng Fenghua's question. Leng Fenghua blinked his eyes. His entire face was flushed red from the aphrodisiac and his entire body was boiling hot as sweat dripped down. Yiqing Luo laughed coldly in her heart. Did he really treat her as an idiot? A lone man and woman, set up in the garden, and there wasn't a single attendant or maid to serve them. How could she not see through Leng Fenghua's motive? What's done cannot be undone. That would depend on whether he had the ability to cook the rice or not. Yiqing Luo laughed coldly as her fingertips hooked onto that wine cup on the table and shook out a handful of medicinal powder. Following that, she picked up the wine cup which Leng Fenghua had drunk several times earlier and flicked her fingers around the rim of the cup. Around the rim of the cup, a circle of jet black immediately appeared. Leng Fenghua's face flushed red as his eyes widened in disbelief. Yiqing Luo had obviously not touched his wine cup and he had been staring at her. How did she do it? This lady emphasizes on reciprocity and I will return you double the amount. Don't worry, your antidote will be here soon. Yiqing Luo gave a low laugh as she bent down slightly as though she was looking at an ant that was about to die. Perhaps it was because his entire body was drugged. Leng Fenghua could clearly sense that the lady's fragrance had entered his nose. The burning sensation in his body felt like it was about to explode. Not knowing where the energy came from, he suddenly stood up and pounced towards Yiqing Luo's direction. This pounce caused his abdomen to receive a vicious kick from Yiqing Luo. Leng Fenghua was caught off guard by this kick, and he was sent flying. Coincidentally, he bumped into the rockery in the corner. Leng Fenghua landed heavily on the ground. He felt a sharp pain in his chest and coughed out blood. However, this pain did not quell the raging fire in his body. A woman in green and white walked out from behind the rockery. She stared coldly at the direction where Yiqing Luo left. Her facial features were sinister and terrifying. What trick was Yiqing Luo playing? He actually gave Leng Fenghua to her just like that? Yi Qingqian's brows creased tightly, unable to understand Yi Qingluo's actions. She lowered her head and stared at Leng Fenghua, who was lying by her feet, his face flushed red as his hands kept on tearing off his clothes. Thinking of how he had fawned over Yi Qingluo earlier, a glint of hatred surfaced in her eyes. He should have known about Leng Fenghua's fickleness. However, in this scene, her heart was moved by Leng Fenghua. She had obviously gotten close to Leng Fenghua in order to walk up to a higher position, not wanting to live under someone else. But this heart had uncontrollably fallen in love with Leng Fenghua. Looking at Leng Fenghua's wriggling body, his face filled with pain, she couldn't bear it. She slowly squatted down and took out a handkerchief from her bosom, helping Leng Fenghua to wipe his sweat. "Bear with it for a while, I'll get someone to carry you to the bedroom." Only, when her hand had just touched Leng Fenghua, her wrist instantly tightened and she had been forcefully pressed onto the ground by Leng Fenghua. Chapter 431. Just as she walked out of the Crown Prince Palace, Yi Qingluo saw Yi Fengyu, who was twitching uneasily not too far away. Her heart warmed, and a warm smile appeared on her face as she walked towards him. "Sister." The moment Yi Fengyu saw Yi Qingluo, his eyes lit up and immediately trotted forward to grab her hand. "Are you all right? Are you okay?" His eyes were filled with worry as he anxiously pulled Yi Qingluo to check if she was injured. Yi Qingluo's eyes were filled with smiles. "You don't trust me that much?" Listening to her relaxed tone, Yi Fengyu's heart that was hanging in his throat finally calmed down. His Highness the Crown Prince was definitely up to no good by asking his sister for a gathering. Although Big Sister is powerful, there are so many experts in the Crown Prince Palace. Big Sister will be at a disadvantage if she is alone. No matter how he thought about it, Yi Fengyu was still worried, so he simply followed them. If Yi Qingluo was a little later, he would definitely barge into the Crown Prince Palace. "Xiao Yu, I have a mission for you." A crafty smile surfaced on Yi Qingluo's charming eyes as she leaned close to Yi Fengyu's ear. "Go to Second Prince's residence and tell him to bring along some pedantic old ministers who have a say in the palace to the Crown Prince's garden. I've prepared a big gift for him." When Yi Qingluo returned to Three Springs Sect, Second Madam and a bunch of maids were standing at the entrance. Seeing Yi Qingluo, Second Madam's well-manicured brows knitted tightly. "Where's Qian?" Today was the Academy's holiday, and in order to reflect the independence of the Three Springs Sect's children, Old Madam had forbidden her to fetch Yi Qingqian from the academy. Second Madam had prepared pastries early in the morning and led a group of maids to wait for Yi Qingqian at the door. They had already waited for 4 hours and there was no sign of Yi Qingqian. He had not expected Yi Qingluo, this slut, to come back first. "You're looking for eldest sister?" Yi Qingluo raised her brows as her lips curled into a strange smile. "Eldest sister has been picked up by the Crown Prince." On hearing that it was Leng Fenghua who had fetched Yi Qingqian, Second Madam's worried heart was finally relieved. But when he saw the smile on Yi Qingluo's face, he suddenly felt a little strange. But he couldn't tell what was strange about it. The one who brought Yi Qingqian away was Leng Fenghua. Perhaps this little slut saw that her own fiancé had brought away another lady and was suppressing her anger. With this thought, the Second Madam did not think too much about it. She called for a group of maids and returned to the mansion, swaying her hips. Yi Qingluo sneered as her eyes were filled with ridicule. Now, he should be happy. Later, there would be plenty of places to cry. Yi Qingluo narrowed her eyes and entered the Three Springs Sect. She didn't follow the rules and report to Old Grand Madam first, but went straight back to her own courtyard. Not long after, Yi Fengyu returned. The things which Yi Qingluo had instructed, he had already completed them. "When I first said this, the second prince didn't believe me. But when I said Big Sister's name, he immediately believed me." Yi Fengyu frowned in confusion. Could it be that Big Sister knows the second prince? "I don't know him." Yi Qingluo raised her arm and rubbed Yi Fengyu's head. "He trusts me, which proves that he is a smart man. Compared to Leng Fenghua, he is more suitable to be the crown prince." Hearing this, Yi Fengyu's expression immediately changed. Be the crown prince? Could it be that big sister wants to let the second prince replace the crown prince? He totally didn't expect that he was just running an errand to pass a message, and it could affect the change of the crown prince's position. Don't worry about other things, just watch the show. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes, reflecting a meaningful cold arc. Chapter 432. The news of the siblings' return to the mansion reached the elder ancestor's ears immediately. However, the two siblings stayed in the courtyard and had no intention of coming to see her. Second Madame Yuchi whispered in her ear. Yiqing Luo totally didn't put old Madame in her heart and even instigated the usually obedient Yi Fengyu to not put old Madame in his eyes. Old Grand Madame was most concerned about the younger generation's respect towards her, so she immediately called for the old maid to bring Yiqing Luo and her brother over. Yiqing Luo led Yi Fengyu to the main hall and saw old Grand Madame sitting on the soft chair, knocking on the wooden fish. Madame Yuchi stood respectfully at the side, looking submissive. It seemed that Madame Yuchi's authority as the mistress of the household had not returned to her. Old 7 and Old 8 are back. Old Ancestor squinted his eyes like a soft snake, giving off a cold glow. Yi Fengyu reflexively straightened his back and bowed slightly towards the Elder Ancestor. Yes, Elder Ancestor. You has returned. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased slightly as she stood by the side, not saying a single word. Number 7, I heard that your eldest sister had been taken away by the Crown Prince? Old Grand Madame didn't probe deeply into Yiqing Luo's attitude, but instead found a topic to talk about. Yiqing Luo raised her eyebrows. I thought I had already made it very clear to second aunt. Madame Yuchi's face paled slightly as she hid behind Elder Ancestor. She's just a young lady. She's not even married yet and she's already so close to His Highness the Crown Prince. If other people hear about this, they'll only laugh at Three Springs sect for not knowing how to educate young ladies. Grand Elder's face darkened slightly as he turned to glare at Madame Yuchi. Madame Yuchi's body trembled and she lowered her head, looking like she was humbly being scolded. Yiqing Luo sneered in her heart when she heard that. This old ancestor was indeed a smart person. He's pretty good at playing dumb. Knowing that currently, Ling Fenghua was Yiqing Luo's fiancée on the surface. However, the old ancestor did not mention a single word about it. Come to think of it, old Grand Madame was still hoping that Yiqing Qian would be able to tie Ling Fenghua up so that she could secure the position of Crown Prince's imperial concubine. Look how kind and filial she is. Knowing the old ancestor's plan, he purposely added fuel to the fire. It wouldn't be long before Yiqing Qian would be able to marry Ling Fenghua as she wished, fulfilling the Yi family's long-cherished dream. Old 7th you too, why didn't you persuade your eldest sister a little more? Old Grand Madame brought the topic back to Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo's lips twitched with a smile that didn't look like a smile. When eldest sister and crown prince are deeply in love, how can I stop them if I go and persuade them? The old ancestor was embarrassed and his face turned red as he choked. She had totally not expected Yiqing Luo to put it so bluntly in front of her. But on seeing Yiqing Luo's calm expression towards the matter of Ling Fenghua and Yiqing Qian being together, her heart faintly heaved a sigh of relief. She had been feeling uneasy ever since her 7th brother left under the protection of His Majesty, the Overlord. She had lived for most of her life. How could she not understand that Di Zun was trying to build support for her 7th brother? He had used his actions to show that he, the Overlord, would stand by old 7th's side and be his backer. Who was Di Zun? He was a legendary figure that was famous throughout the entire Nirvana realm. He had the #1 powerhouse, the Imperial Palace as his backing, and he himself was so powerful that there was no opponent in the world. Who dared to go against him? Today, Di Zun wanted to protect Yiqing Luo. When old Grand Madame faced Yiqing Luo, she naturally could not throw her face away like in the past. Chapter 433. A lady who had been touched by the Crown Prince, no matter where she went, no one dared to accept her. Moreover, based on Yiqing Luo's character, if she became the Crown Prince's concubine, she would absolutely not allow Yiqing Qian to become Ling Fenghua's concubine, to put on a show of two sisters serving one husband. Old Madam was extremely curious. What was the relationship between Yiqing Luo and the Overlord? From the looks of it, it really didn't seem like a simple master-disciple relationship. If she was able to get close to the Overlord, then Three Springs sect would completely have the hope of turning the tables. Yiqing Luo merely shot a glance at Old Madam and had already guessed most of what she was thinking in her heart. She sneered as she tugged Yifeng Yu's arm and walked towards the armchair. Without waiting for Old Madam to say anything, she sat down directly. Such a disrespectful attitude made Old Madam's face sunk as her brows creased and her expression was filled with disgust. This disgust disappeared in a flash. Following that, Old Madam's voice turned gentle as she gave an amiable smile. It's been hard on you during this period of time in the academy. In the past, when eldest and second brother came back from the academy, they would need to nourish their bodies for several days. In a while, Grandma will get the maids to bring some nourishing soup for you and your brother. No need. Yiqing Luo rejected without any hesitation. It's rare for us to have a holiday. I've already promised a few students that for the 3 days of holiday, I will bring Xiao Yu and the rest to have fun outside. Old Madam's amiable expression could no longer be maintained. That pair of slender eyes revealed a thick gloominess. This lass seemed to have grown some ability. Did she think that just because she had the Overlord, she could be lawless? He didn't even put him in his eyes. Madame Yuchi saw that the atmosphere had turned gloomy and Old Madam's expression turned uglier. She was both happy and apprehensive. What made them happy was that Old Grand Madam didn't treat Yiqing Luo as a treasure just because she had a much stronger ability than Yiqing Qian, nor because she had the backing of the Overlord. But she was apprehensive and worried that Old Grand Madam would vent the anger which he was unable to vent on Yiqing Luo on her. She deliberated over her words for a long time before saying, Miss Qi is still young and a child loves to play. It's rare for her to have a holiday. Since Miss Qi has an appointment with her classmates, let her go. The old ancestor's deep gaze moved towards Madame Yuchi. Madame Yuchi shuddered at the sight of those sinister, snake-like eyes. Fortunately, although the old ancestor's gaze was cold, he didn't say anything else. He was extremely satisfied with Madame Yuchi's words that broke the deadlock. Old Madame nodded her head slightly as her gaze stared straight at Yiqing Luo. What Madame Yuchi said is right. This 3 days holiday, Grandma will allow you to meet up with your classmates, but the next holiday, you'll have to leave some time for Grandma. If there's a next time, I'll try my best. Yiqing Luo's lips curled up as she scoffed disapprovingly. The frivolous and perfunctory attitude made the wrinkled muscles on the old ancestor's face tremble. She forcefully suppressed the anger in her heart. More and more, she felt that this granddaughter of hers was simply uncontrollable. Madame Yuchi continued to smooth things over as she changed the topic, speaking of classmates. Miss Qi, 8th young master, you haven't told Old Madam which class you've entered? She paused for a moment as she gave a fawning smile. But her tone was filled with resentment. Miss Qi's performance in the ability assessment was so outstanding, so you must have been allocated to the high profound class, right? Devil class. Low profound class, second class. The two of them replied at the same time. Chapter 434. Low profound class? Madame Yuchi's eyes widened in disbelief, filled with astonishment. 8th young master, based on your aptitude, even if you can't enter the high profound class, you should at least be able to enter the intermediate profound class. Why are you in the low profound class? Because the previous two were Yiqing Qian and Yifeng Ru who had directly entered the high profound class. In their minds, the low profound class was the lowest class. I feel that the low profound class is very good. Yifeng Yu was roared at and stared at by Old Madam's eerie gaze. He felt a chill down his spine as he lowered his head and muttered, I can learn more in the low profound class. I'm the one who asked him to go to the low profound class. Yiqing Luo interrupted Yifeng Yu's words in a calm voice. Previously the academy that little Yu attended had completely wasted him. He needs to consolidate his own foundation and the low profound class is the best place to train his foundation. The reason why she explained was purely because she didn't want to see Madame Yuchi's smirk under the shock and agitate Yi Fengyu. For a child of Yi Fengyu's age, his soul was the most fragile and he liked to indulge in flights of fancy. If he really thought that the low profound class was the most useless class under Madame Yuchi's hint, it would possibly strike Yi Fengyu's intention to consolidate his foundation. However, this explanation, in the ears of old Madame and Madame Yuchi, was an extremely far-fetched excuse. Heavenly Academy's class allocation, how could she just say which class she wanted to go to? Wait, this devil class. What's going on? Old Madame squinted her eyes as she looked at Yi Qing Luo in astonishment. She had heard of Yi Qing Luo's performance during the assessment. She broke the record set by a genius cultivator a few hundred years ago, which was 24 hours. Yi Qing Luo had set a new record, which was 1 hour. 24 hours and 1 hour. This contrast was so obvious. After that, during the ability assessment, she shone brilliantly. This kind of result, how could she be allocated to the devil class, the class that was synonymous with waste? You still want to go out and play with those waste in the devil class? Old Madame's face was ashen as the wooden fish in her hand broke with a bang. Old Madame hated waste the most in her entire life. Although she hated Yi Qing Luo, but Yi Qing Luo still represented the Three Springs sect. He actually entered the devil class. If this was spread out, how would others mock the devil class? The more the old ancestor thought about it, the more he could not conceal the anger on his face. No wonder Yi Qing Luo didn't think of making progress and still wanted to go on holiday. He had been led astray by those trash. Tomorrow, I will go to the elder quarters to have a good chat. Devil class. You must not stay here any longer. Yi Qing Luo squinted her eyes as her lips curled into a smile which didn't look like a smile. Whether the devil class is trash or not, whether I stay in the devil class or not, it has nothing to do with old ancestor. You. Most importantly. Ancestor, the times are different now. Your words are no longer the same as they were back then. If the Heavenly Academy can be easily persuaded, then it's not worthy of being called the best academy. Old Grand Madame's expression was a mix of green and red. Although what Yi Qing Luo said was indeed the truth, but for a junior to say this in front of her face, her old face couldn't take it. Seventh young mistress, what are you saying? Madame Yuchi saw that old Madame was angry and immediately went forward as she gently caressed old Madame's chest and passed her some tea as she turned her head to look at Yi Qing Luo. Old Madame is concerned about you and thinking of your future. If you're not willing, then so be it. Why must you use words to stab old Madame? Old Madame drank a mouthful of tea as she calmed her anger down. A pair of malicious eyes stared coldly at Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled up slightly as she calculated the time. The real show was about to start. She stood up as she gave an extremely elegant smile. If you have the time to care about me, why don't you care more about that eldest young Miss Yi who brings glory to the clan? Chapter 435. What rubbish are you sprouting? Old Madame is fine here, how is it not good? Madame Yuchi's brows creased as her heartbeat sped up. Not knowing why, there was an ominous premonition spreading in her heart. She took a look at old Madame and strode forward as she lifted that follower and gave him 2 tight slaps. That follower cried out in pain as he held his cheek. It's not that old Madame is not good, it's eldest young miss. What did you say? On hearing that it was Yi Qing Qian, Madame Yuchi's expression suddenly congealed as she tugged the follower's collar. What did you say? What happened to Qian, The follower was so frightened that he trembled. Eldest young miss. Eldest young miss was carried back by the royal family's men. Crown Prince was carried by the side and Eunuch Chang. Eunuch Chang received the imperial edict. Madame Yuchi's face turned pale as she staggered backwards. Her mind was filled with the words of her daughter being carried back. Old Madame was still considered calm, but the expression on her face was filled with viciousness. A pair of icy cold eagle eyes looked at Yi Qing Luo, as though she was suspecting if this matter was caused by her. Yi Qing Luo's lips twitched as she looked at her calmly with a, I don't know what's the situation, expression. Old Madame stood up in doubt as she stared at Madame Yuchi, who seemed as though she had lost her soul. Useless fellow. Quickly help me out to receive the imperial edict. Madame Yuchi seemed as though she had just awoken from a dream as she hurriedly supported Old Madame as the two of them hurriedly walked out of the main hall to receive the imperial edict. Sister. Surely it can't be. Yi Fengyu had participated in this matter previously, and when he heard Yi Qingqian being carried back, his expression changed slightly. You can just pretend that you don't know anything. Yi Qingluo raised her finger as she placed it on her brother's mouth. Your sister is helping the Yi family to realize a beautiful dream. Indeed, it was realizing a dream. But this dream wasn't beautiful at all. As what Yi Qingluo had expected, it was exactly the same. In the Crown Prince Palace, the aphrodisiac which Leng Fenghua wanted to use on Yi Qingluo was multiplied by several times, and made Leng Fenghua drink it himself. The moment he touched a woman, he was like a ferocious beast. How could he stop? Yi Qingluo's kick had specially sent Leng Fenghua to where Yi Qingqian was hiding. Everything that happened after that happened naturally. In the first place, there was no brotherly love between the royal family because of the power struggle. The second prince had long wanted to find a chance to get rid of Leng Fenghua and replace him. Now that he heard that Yi Qingluo had prepared a huge gift for him, he found the best excuse right now. Crown Prince as the Crown Prince, he should set an example and not provoke Yi Qingqian while maintaining the engagement with Yi Qingluo. These pedantic old ministers had long been displeased with Leng Fenghua and Yi Qingqian's matter. Now that the second prince had taken the lead, he was naturally happy to go. In his heart, he felt that the second prince was a reasonable person who valued brotherhood. Thus, with the second prince leading the three old ministers, they majestically made their way to the Crown Prince Palace. After seeing the group of people coming, the two gatekeepers fell to the ground on the spot. Seeing this situation, the few old ministers realized that something was amiss and immediately broke the door open. In the entire Crown Prince Palace, not a single sound was heard and not a single attendant or maid was seen. Second prince had long received Yi Fengyu's instructions and intentionally led the three old ministers to the garden. After that, the entire garden was set up with a long table. The delicacies on the table were scattered all over the ground. Whereas in everyone's ears, they could obviously hear that man's rough growl and panting which made one blush. Chapter 436. When she heard the voice, the lady who was lying on the ground, covered in bruises, stretched out her hands and kept shouting, "Help! Help!" That voice was hoarse. Apparently she had been shouting for a long time and her throat was sore. This scene completely stunned the few of them. Especially the three old ministers. They were originally pedantic and their thinking was old-fashioned. Now that they saw Leng Fenghua doing that improper thing in the garden in broad daylight, they were so infuriated that they started to tremble. Second prince heard the old official scolding him non-stop and finally understood what Yi Qingluo was referring to when she mentioned about the huge gift. This big gift, he was very satisfied. Luckily when he invited the three old ministers, the excuse he used was precisely about Leng Fenghua and Yi Qingqian's matter. Coincidentally, they bumped into each other. Second prince smelled the blood in his nose and hid the profound meaning in his eyes, revealing a flustered expression as he went up to stop them. Leng Fenghua was like a beast at this time, totally ignoring the onlookers, as he fiercely bullied the lady below him. Second prince, because of this, was beaten up a few times. After a long while, he finally managed to block Leng Fenghua. Both of them were already dripping with blood. Second prince took off his clothes and covered Yi Qingqian's body. Although the three old ministers were angry, but he was after all the crown prince, one by one, they stepped forward and took off their clothes to cover Leng Fenghua. In the process, the three old ministers were beaten up quite a bit. This matter, naturally, quickly reached the palace. The monarch was furious. If Leng Fenghua and Yi Qingqian were acquainted privately, no one knew, the monarch would turn a blind eye, that was fine. But now, in broad daylight, dismissing the maidservant, in the garden. And for the few old ministers to see it clearly. Moreover, he had even beaten up these 3 old officials. When he heard that when Yiqing Luo was carried for treatment, she had already fainted, and her lower body was covered with blood, the monarch almost fainted from anger. Even Three Springs sect, compared to the other 3 major sects, had declined quite a bit. But no matter what, it was still one of the 4 major sections. Otherwise they wouldn't have disregarded the fact that Yiqing Luo was a wastrel and forcefully betrothed the Yi family's first wife's daughter to Leng Fenghua. Now, Leng Fenghua had turned the Yi clan's eldest young miss into such a state. If he didn't give the Yi clan an explanation, how could Yi Tianquang let it go? Under the monarch's rage, he issued an imperial edict and made eunuch Chang bring the unconscious Yi Qingqian to the Yi family to retrieve the edict. Leng Fenghua's position as the crown prince was revoked, and he was conferred the title of King Ping. He moved to a fiefdom in the south of the West continent. Yi Qingqian had arranged for Leng Fenghua to be married to him, together with the dowry of the fief. As for the matter of Leng Fenghua betraying Yiqing Luo and secretly having an affair with Yi Qingqian, the monarch expressed his deep apologies and rewarded Yiqing Luo with quite a lot of gold and silver jewelry. In order to appease the anger of the 3 old officials, as well as the anger of the people of the world, the monarch gave Yiqing Luo a handwritten instruction. With this handwritten order, Yiqing Luo would be able to move about unimpeded within the imperial city's sphere of influence. Furthermore, she could make any request that did not harm the interests of the royal family, and the royal family would do their best to fulfill it for her. When Yiqing Luo held on to this handwritten order, eunuch Chang had already returned to report on the completion of the task. Yi Qingqian was carried to the main hall and there were 2 female doctors who were sent by the monarch to take care of her. They recounted Yi Qingqian's current condition. Madame Yuqi's tears flowed as she listened, looking at her pale-faced and unconscious daughter on the stretcher. She cried miserably, muttering that she wanted to tear Leng Fenghua into pieces. These words made old Madame's eyelids twitch. Chapter 437. Looking at this scene, Yiqing Luo's lips curled into a smirk of ridicule. In Madame Yuqi's eyes, this smile was a show of strength to her, a show of pride. Recalling what Yiqing Luo said the minute she came back, Yi Qingqian said Leng Fenghua had picked her up, recalling that treacherous smile, recalling what she said earlier about asking them to take good care of Yi Qingqian. Madame Yuqi instantly went crazy as she struggled and pounced towards Yiqing Luo. It's you. You framed my daughter. You were the one who wanted to destroy my daughter. It must be Yiqing Luo. It must be her. If it wasn't for Yiqing Luo, her daughter wouldn't have turned into this state. It wouldn't take long for the entire Three Springs city to know about it. Carrying it from the palace to the Three Springs manor, it wouldn't be long before the entire Three Springs city knew about it. The eldest daughter of the Yi family was having an affair with the crown prince in broad daylight. In the end, he stole to the point where he was riddled with scars. Leng Fenghua was stripped of his position as the crown prince. From now on, he would not be able to step into the main city. He wouldn't be able to achieve anything. In this life, he could only be a prince with a title but no real power. If Yi Qingqian married over, her entire life would be ruined. Making such a big scene, Leng Fenghua had lost all his face and the Yi family had also lost all their face. If Yi Qingqian married over, would she still be able to receive the favored treatment? Especially when I heard, Yi Qingqian was eventually saved by the second prince. This meant that the second prince had seen her body. In this way, Leng Fenghua would despise Yi Qingqian even more. Thinking of this, Madame Yuqi didn't know where the energy came from as she struggled free from the old maid and pounced onto Yiqing Luo, raising her hand to slap Yiqing Luo's face. You're such a vicious woman. You're a jinx. You've ruined both my daughters. What else do you want? What else do you want? I'll kill you. I'll definitely kill you. But before Madame Yuqi could even touch Yiqing Luo, she felt a sharp pain on her chest as her body flew backwards. Coincidentally, Yi Tianquang received the news and returned. As soon as she stepped into the main hall, she bumped into Madame Yuqi. The strength of Madame Yuqi's throw was extremely great. Yi Tianquang staggered back a few steps from the impact, and subconsciously threw the person in his arms away. Only then did he realize that it was Madame Yuchi, whose face was full of tears and was howling crazily. Madame Yuchi had long lost her rationality under the double stimulation. After being hugged by Yi Tianquang, she frantically greeted Yi Tianquang's face. Those sharp nails scratched Yi Tianquang's face, leaving several bloody marks. "I'll kill you. Give me back my daughter. Give me back my daughter." Yi Tianquang impatiently grabbed Madame Yuchi's arm and ruthlessly flung her out. He heard the rumors outside and immediately rushed back, and also heard Madame Yuchi's howl towards Yi Qing Luo earlier. When Yi Tianquang heard of this news, his first reaction was to wonder if this matter was Yi Qing Luo's doing. As the head of a family, Yi Tianquang naturally wasn't stupid. After learning of this matter, the first thing he did was to ask the academy about it. But from what the surrounding students were saying, the one who boarded Leng Fenghua's carriage was obviously Yi Qing Luo. Why was it that the one who got into trouble was Yi Qing Jian? Not waiting for Yi Tianquang to ask, he saw Yi Qing Luo standing up after she finished kicking him. On that devastatingly beautiful face, the expression was cold and detached, neither anxious nor impatient. "To speak, you need evidence. You keep saying that everything is because of me, then show me the evidence." Chapter 438. Yi Tianquang's eyes were filled with anger, and his rough voice immediately resounded throughout the main hall. "You want proof, don't you? Those people at the entrance of the academy are all witnesses. You became the crown prince." Yi Tianquang paused, remembering that Leng Fenghua's position as the crown prince had been removed. He changed his words, got into King Ping's carriage. After all, they were at the academy's entrance and there were so many people. In front of so many pairs of eyes, Yi Qing Luo had no intention to hide the fact that she had boarded Leng Fenghua's carriage. Her expression didn't change, and the corner of her mouth twitched contemptuously. "So what? I did board Leng Fenghua's car, but did I ask Yi Qing Qian to go to the Crown Prince Palace?" Yi Tianquang's words were dry and somewhat angry. "That's also related to you. Lord Father, your words are quite interesting." Yi Qing Luo's eyes narrowed slightly as she smiled lightly. "Don't push all the blame onto me. If the relationship between the two of them was clean, then no matter how I schemed, would not be able to frame them, isn't that so?" Not waiting for Yi Tianquang to open his mouth, Yi Qing Luo took the lead to rebuke. "Father also said that I boarded Leng Fenghua's carriage and went to Crown Prince Palace. Then why did Yi Qing Qian appear there? Why did the two of them get entangled after I left?" That's right, if Yi Qing Luo wanted to frame Yi Qing Qian, the prerequisite was that Yi Qing Qian was in the Crown Prince Palace. After asking outside the Heavenly Academy, those who had seen Leng Fenghua personally escorting Yi Qing Luo to the Crown Prince Palace, were all ridiculing Yi Qing Qian for overestimating her own capabilities, attempting to snatch her sister's fiancé. From the start to the end, Yi Qing Luo hadn't spoken a single word to Yi Qing Qian, so there was no way that Yi Qing Luo had deceived Yi Qing Qian into the Crown Prince Palace. What's more, there were people who vividly described Yi Qing Qian's twisted and malevolent expression when she stared at Leng Fenghua's carriage. Yi Tianquang was naturally aware of Yi Qing Qian's character since he had always been paying attention to and doting on his daughter. Probably, Yi Qing Qian's appearance in the Crown Prince Palace was because she was jealous of Yi Qing Luo and specially tagged along. Seeing that Yi Tianquang remained silent, Yi Qing Luo's lips curled into a sneer. "On the contrary, I feel that the person Leng Fenghua wanted to meet today is actually Yi Qing Qian. But in front of so many people, he's afraid of ruining his own crown prince's reputation, so he deliberately used me as a shield. Otherwise, why would I be asked to leave the Crown Prince Palace right after I arrived at the Crown Prince Palace? And why would such a thing happen right after that?" Yi Qing Luo's counterattack actually made sense. For a moment, Yi Tianquang was speechless. Even Madame Yuchi, who had been crying, stopped crying. It seemed like there was really such a possibility. After all, Yi Qingqian and Leng Fenghua had always been sneakily together. Some time ago, because Yi Qingluo kept on bringing this matter out in the open in front of the commoners. This kind of scandal would greatly affect the crown prince's status. The most important point is, why did second prince go at such a coincidental time? Yi Qingluo asked this question word by word. Second prince accepted such a huge gift from her and successfully brought Leng Fenghua down from the stage. Although the monarch hadn't appointed another crown prince, but second prince's actions today had brushed up the three old ministers and the commoners' favorable impression. The crown prince's position would belong to second prince sooner or later. Just treat it as returning the gift. This pot, second prince should carry it well. This sentence, indeed, attracted Yi Tianquang's attention. That's right, in the royal family, the only person Yi Qingluo knew was only Leng Fenghua. Yi Qingluo probably hadn't even met second prince before, so how would she collude with second prince to frame Yi Qingqian? Chapter 439. Yi Qingluo had a panoramic view of Yi Tianquang and old Grand Madame's expressions. The corners of her lips curled into a cold smile as she turned around and grabbed Yi Fenghu's arm. She chuckled, "Eldest sister, this matter has a deep impact on the Three Springs sect. Father will be mentally and physically exhausted in the near future." She paused for a moment, then smiled even more charmingly. "I'm afraid I won't be able to see big sister get married, then I'll have to trouble father to congratulate big sister on my behalf, and congratulate her for finally getting married to Leng Fenghua." Ever since Yi Qingluo's marriage was fixed, Yi Qingjian had been racking her brains to seduce Leng Fenghua. Finally, he successfully made Leng Fenghua's gaze shift to him. Wasn't it for the sake of marrying Leng Fenghua? Madame Yuqi's face was steely green as the rouge on her face was smeared by her tears. She didn't even know that as her pair of venomous eyes stared fiercely at Yi Qingluo. Looking at the smile on Yi Qingluo's face, listening to her congratulations. It was obvious that he harbored malicious intentions and wanted to see a joke. Get lost. Get lost. Get out of here. Madame Yuqi only felt that her eyes were extremely dazzling. A sour feeling assaulted her nose and tears rolled down her cheeks again. Her two daughters, the two daughters she was so proud of, were ruined. Her dream of becoming the crown princess was over. Her dream of using her daughter's power to become the first madam of the Yi family was completely shattered. Yi Qingluo's charming eyes were curved, sparkling like stars, dazzling and dazzling. She didn't say anything else and just dragged Yi Fenghu out of the main hall. Behind her, no one stopped her, nor did they have the time to stop her. The most important thing now was how to solve the scandal that Yi Qingqian created. Although they wholeheartedly wanted Yi Qingqian to become the crown prince's imperial concubine, but they had to use an open and above-board excuse to make it seem legitimate. At this critical juncture, he used such a method to expose everything. Yi Qingqian would only bear the infamy of being a slut who had no bottom line to forcibly take her sister's fiancé. He probably wouldn't be able to wash himself clean in this lifetime. The Three Springs sect was also deeply affected, and people were pointing fingers at them. They were badly battered, but Yi Qingluo was extremely relaxed. The two of them walked all the way out of the Three Springs sect's residence. Yi Qingluo released her brother's wrist and walked towards the west of the city. Yi Fenghu followed closely behind his sister's footsteps, his face filled with anxiety and worry. "Sister, aren't you afraid that when Yi Qingqian wakes up, she will expose you?" Yi Qingluo's righteous words to Yi Tianquang earlier had shocked him so much that his heart was thumping non-stop. Although he didn't understand the process, but he was very clear that Leng Fenghua and Yi Qingqian would be in the garden. It was absolutely related to his sister. Even if she were to expose me, who would believe her? Yi Qingluo wasn't bothered at all. Since she dared to say this, she wasn't afraid. The current Yi Qingqian's reputation had hit rock bottom and she was full of curses. Even if she said that she was framed by Yi Qingluo, and said that Leng Fenghua was also framed by Yi Qingluo and had taken an aphrodisiac. But with Yi Qingluo's righteous speech earlier, the Yi family had already excluded Yi Qingluo from the first impression. When Yi Qingqian said this, Yi Tianquang would only think that she was at death's door and still wanted to drag Yi Qing Luo down to be a scapegoat. Alright, this matter ends here. What you need to do next is to put your mind on cultivation and training. Yi Qing Luo saw that Yi Fengyu still had a worried look on his face and stretched out her hand to pinch his cheek. For the 3 days of holiday, you will follow the devil class's students and undergo actual combat training. Don't forget the promise you made to sister. Sister, I have always remembered it. Chapter 440. The young man's sonorous voice and unwavering tone declared his promise. Yi Qing Luo's eyes were filled with smiles, like the sun, dazzling and warm. The next second, Yi Fengyu rubbed his face and muttered softly, "Devil class's students. All need to participate in actual combat training? You want me to follow them? Why don't you let me follow Master Guiyu? When you see them later, say this again." Yi Qing Luo laughed lightly as she stretched out her hand and messed up Yi Fengyu's meticulously combed hair. City West Mansion. It was an old mansion which didn't look outstanding on the outside. This was the old mansion which Yan Xiaoyi had used all her years of savings to purchase. From the outside, it looked rather old and shabby, and in the bustling Three Springs city, it was extremely inconspicuous. But when Yi Qing Luo led Yi Fengyu into the inner courtyard, the entire mansion style seemed to have undergone an earth-shattering change. The decorations, the clusters of flowers, the luxuriant trees, it was absolutely not inferior to any large family's mansion. On the contrary, it looked extremely luxurious. They had just arrived at the inner courtyard and Xiao Jin was greeting the students, assigning them to their rooms. The minute he saw Yi Qing Luo, he went up to her. "This mansion is much more comfortable than devil class. In future when we graduate, let's sleep here at Xiaoyi's place." Saying that, his vision shifted onto Yi Fengyu. "My brother, Master Guiyu's disciple." Yi Qing Luo pushed Yi Fengyu forward. "His ability is not bad, but he lacks actual combat experience. He will be training with you these few days. Also, join the mercenary group." Xiao Jin tugged Yi Fengyu as he touched his bone structure. "Join." Yi Fengyu was stunned as he blinked his eyes in a daze. "Sister, what mercenary group? Kids only need to be obedient, don't ask too much." Yi Qing Luo patted his head. "Go and nurture your relationship with your brothers and sisters." Yi Fengyu obediently agreed, his gaze drifting back and forth between the students around him. These were all devil class's students. They looked to be around his age, and their faces were filled with radiant smiles. They were totally different from the academy's rumored trash. Not allowing Yi Fengyu to think deeply, Qiao Jin's arm was already on his shoulder. "Let's go, Brother Qiao will bring you to meet the other brothers and sisters. The earlier you get to know each other, the more you can nurture your rapport." Yi Fengyu's body stiffened. He had never had a friend that he could put his arm around. Qiao Jin's action frightened him. Subconsciously, Yi Fengyu looked at Yi Qing Luo for help. Before she could say anything, an elegant and cheerful voice rang out, "Sister, you're here." She saw a lady dressed in a black furry long dress bouncing over to Yi Qing Luo's side, as she hooked her arm with one hand. Her delicate and sweet face was filled with a sweet smile. Her eyes, which were as cunning as a cat's, were full of worship. Yi Fengyu's heart fiercely trembled, and he swallowed back the words that were about to come out of his mouth. Following that, a few other female students surrounded Yi Qing Luo. "Madam Qing Luo. Student Yi." Their faces were full of smiles. Moreover, their gazes towards Yi Qing Luo were all the same, filled with worship. As though Yi Qing Luo was their revered deity, their pillar of support. "Feel that sister has been snatched away?" Qiao Jin's voice suddenly rang beside his ear. Yi Fengyu was stunned, as his vision stared at Yi Qing Luo's direction without blinking, as he shook his head. "Only feel that sister is really incredible." Chapter 441. There's a magical power on her, a magical power that attracts people. Half of Qiao Jin's body was already hanging on Yi Fengyu's shoulder, This is a unique charm that belongs to her and no one is able to escape from her magical power. In Yi Fengyu's chest, there seemed to be something boiling hot, as it started to boil. Yes, his sister had the ability to infect the surrounding people. She had the magical power to turn something rotten into something magical. These people's admiration towards his sister was no less than his. Yi Fengyu's lips curled upwards, that originally restless heart slowly settled down. That afternoon, before it was even 5 in the morning, Devil Class's 60 over students had all arrived at the mansion. Even though it was a holiday, Yi Qingluo didn't let them slack off on their training. All the students then started training in the mansion's courtyard. When Yi Fengyu saw these students training in an orderly manner, he was completely stunned. These students obviously had not just started training recently. Their movements were standard and their coordination was extremely good. After a set of training, even he who had been praised by Master Guo Yu for his physique was already unable to take it. But these students, who were labeled as waste, didn't have any change in expression, as they continued with the next set of training. Damn it! What kind of waste were these? Was the academy really not blind? They were definitely blind, otherwise they wouldn't have allocated his sister to Devil Class. Yi Fengyu recalled that before he came, he was still doubting Devil Class's ability, as his face was filled with shame. He clenched his teeth, not willing to admit defeat, as he immediately followed up with these students' training. After the training ended, the students lined up properly. They saw Yan Xiaoyi pushing a wooden cart as she walked over. On the wooden cart, there were sets of brand new clothes. Since we're a team, and also a team to develop into a mercenary group, then we must have a uniform. Yan Xiaoyi picked up a set of clothes. As she waved it, each person has 2 sets, vice class monitor. She paused for a moment, as she burst out laughing, "No, now we should call vice group leader. When vice group leader calls your name, come over to collect your clothes." Xiao Jin rolled his eyes, "Go ahead and tease me, great manager Yan." He intentionally spat out the last 4 words, word by word. Yan Xiaoyi directly threw the clothes in her hands towards Xiao Jin's face. Amidst the laughter, the students had already collected 2 sets of clothes and returned to their rooms. About an hour later, these people put on the clothes and returned to the courtyard to line up. Xiao Jin and the others also changed into this set of clothes. When he walked out, he saw that the entire courtyard was filled with youths dressed in the same clothes, and their faces were filled with smiles of joy and excitement. His heart was filled with a sense of satisfaction. These clothes were made according to each student's measurements, and each student's name was embroidered on the collar with golden thread. Ever since Yi Qingluo said that she wanted to establish a mercenary group, Yan Xiaoyi, Xiao Jin and the others had already discussed to prepare a set of mercenary group uniform for this batch of youngsters. After the discussion, they hired 100 tailors and embroidery workers at a high price and rushed to make more than 100 sets of clothes. This was their uniform. It was the uniform of their mercenary group. The youths touched the clothes on their bodies very carefully, afraid that they would damage their new clothes. Has everyone changed their clothes? Do they all fit? A clear voice came from the main hall. His voice wasn't loud, but it suppressed the clamor in the courtyard. Chapter 442. In the main hall, 2 figures walked out. The exact same mercenary group's attire, but with 2 totally different styles. The woman's long hair was tied up into a bun, using a black hair tie to secure it at the back of her head, revealing that devastatingly beautiful face. Between her brows, there was a peerless enchanting look. That black attire clung tightly to her nice figure. Her entire person was breathtaking, revealing a kind of enchanting and languid charm that could charm all living beings. As for the man, his handsome face was cold, without any emotions, with a pair of azure blue eyes, staring coldly in front. This black warrior robe added a little wildness to his aura that people didn't want to get close to. The black attire, embroidered on the sleeve, was a blossoming cherry blossom totem, which was extremely eye-catching. The fabric of the attire was soft and close-fitting, and extremely resistant to wear. Yan Xiaoyi specially spent a huge sum of money to invite 10 over-armament masters to enchant every single piece of clothing with some elements. Every piece of clothing had the ability to prevent knives from cutting, slashing, and all ordinary sharp weapons. It was equivalent to a golden silk soft armor, impenetrable by swords and spears. And there was a special function. A good-looking person is indeed different. Xiao Jin clicked his tongue, propping his chin as he shook his head. Look at our Qing Luo, dressed like a fairy descending to earth, breathtaking, and look at our student Xiao Yi. When he said to this point, he paused, shaking his head helplessly. Sigh. Damn. What do you mean? Yan Xiaoyi's eyes twitched as she threw a slap towards Xiao Jin's face. Although I'm not as good as Qing Luo, but at least I'm beautiful, you blind one, get lost. Alright, stop quarreling. Long Yunzhan opened his mouth coldly. The two of them instantly shut their mouths, but when their four eyes met, it was still burning with intense sparks. Yi Qing Luo's charming eyes swept past these youngsters in front of her. They were dressed in their own unique uniform, their expressions solemn, as their gazes kept staring at her. This feeling was very warm. So warm that her heart was about to melt from their smiles. If there's any part that doesn't fit, tell Xiao Yi, so that we can amend it in time. Yi Qing Luo's voice became much gentler. Fits. Very fitting. How could it not fit? The youngsters' hearts were filled with gratitude. What they didn't know was when Yan Xiaoyi had already memorized everyone's clothing measurements without a single mistake. Tonight, you must rest well. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled into a smile. Tomorrow, we will be heading to the Mercenary Association to register our mercenary group. Moreover, we will be taking on our first mission. She paused for a moment and narrowed her charming eyes, emitting a majestic aura. I have very high expectations for all of you. The first mission will definitely not be easy. Furthermore, I demand that all of you complete the first mission at all costs. The youngsters' expressions suddenly changed, as they were shocked by Yi Qing Luo's words. The youngsters' expressions suddenly changed, as they were, of Yi. The lowest level was the low-level mission, followed by the mid-level mission, high-level mission, complex mission, and the most difficult to complete, which was the one that even the gold medal mercenary groups couldn't complete, were the god-level missions. Based on Yi Qing Luo's character, her first mission would definitely be a high-level mission. Looking at the youngsters whose faces had turned pale from fright, Yi Qing Luo's smile didn't diminish. Let's disperse and return to your rooms to rest. Don't be so nervous that you can't sleep. If you affect everyone's progress tomorrow, you will be a sinner for all eternity. Clap, clap, clap in the silent inner courtyard. The crisp sound of applause was extremely loud. Who is it? Chapter 443. A man with jet black hair, dressed in a purple robe, floated in mid-air as he walked over. Like a deity descending, he slowly landed at the entrance of the inner courtyard. That peerless face, the corners of his eyes were long and narrow, and his thin lips were curled into an extremely shallow arc. It was full of demonic charm. Such a strong aura. Such a strong power. The youngsters' eyes widened as they stared dazedly at this godlike man in front of them. Overlord. The legend in their hearts, the target that they yearned for. The Overlord who has always been elusive, has actually allowed us to meet him? I'm not dreaming, am I? This is really the Overlord? What the? I heard that Student Yi and the Overlord have a close relationship. This is true. The youngsters stared at Dmo Xian in shock. All of them couldn't wait to rush up and touch him to see if he was really the Overlord. Dmo Xian's appearance instantly attracted all the youngsters' gazes. Yi Qing Luo was also astonished. Why was he here? The man's narrow long devilish charm, glistening peach blossom eyes, gazed deeply at Yi Qing Luo. As though he wanted to melt her in his gaze. Yi Qing Luo's cheeks suddenly turned red and boiling hot. Her breathing quickened as he got closer to her. The surrounding youngsters were all shocked. This gaze. This gaze. This atmosphere. If these two people didn't have anything going on, who would believe it? The surrounding students' envious and teasing gazes looked towards Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo's cheeks turned boiling hot, as her heartbeat sped up. Like a young lady in love, her heart was moved. She thought that Dmo Xian would only appear when the both of them were alone. She had even made preparations to return to her room to rest, waiting for Dmo Xian's arrival. She had not expected him to appear openly in the inner courtyard, in front of these students. "You're indeed my Lil Luo, well said." The man's mellow whine-like voice rang lightly in the inner courtyard sky. As he said that, he had already walked in front of Yiqing Luo. Stretching out his hand, his well-defined fingers caressed Yiqing Luo's face. His jade-like fingers gently caressed the strands of hair by the side of her face, circling to the back of her head, his fingertips gentle. "You've worked hard." That gentle touch was like a feather, brushing over his skin. Yiqing Luo's curly long eyelashes fluttered as her charming eyes were tainted with a layer of haziness. She raised her eyes and was met with a pair of eyes that were as gentle as water and filled with love. His clear and melodious voice still rang in her ears. It was so gentle that it seemed as if water could be squeezed out of it. Her heart was suddenly struck by something and softened. She took the initiative to snuggle into Dmo Xian's arms, her arms circling around his waist, her nostrils filled with the familiar sandalwood scent. She smiled like a flower and said in a sweet voice, "Ah Xian." Dmo Xian's index finger caressed Yiqing Luo's silky hair as his eyes overflowed with gentleness. "It can't be. Our classmate Yi really has this kind of relationship with the Overlord? Why not? It was already so obvious. Damn it. Oh, my eyes. I'm going to be blinded by the light. It's simply showing off to dogs. This scene is too beautiful." It was indeed beautiful. The man was domineering and awe-inspiring, and his purple robe fluttered in the wind. The woman was enchanting and alluring, dressed in a black tight suit. Her good figure was in harmony with the man's arms. Both of them had looks that could topple an entire nation, with an unparalleled imposing manner. The combination was indeed an extremely beautiful picture. Chapter 444. This feeling, where did it come from? He wasn't sure. Only, seeing Dmo Xian hugging Yiqing Luo, with a slightly provocative gaze, as he glanced at him. Long Yunzhan instantly felt that, even his breathing became heavier. He frowned, and like the other youngsters, he stared at the scene of the two hugging. The man was handsome and the lady was pretty, extremely compatible. From Yiqing Luo's gaze, he could tell that she had true feelings for Dmo Xian. Wasn't this very good? But what was this strange feeling in his heart? What was going on? "Everyone quickly return to your rooms to rest. Tomorrow morning we will be heading to the Mercenary Association." Xiao Jin was the first to react, as he hurriedly called the youngsters back to their rooms to sleep. It was rare to see the Overlord in person. How would these youngsters be willing to leave? All of them stared at Dmo Xian reluctantly, and under Xiao Jin's repeated urging, they only took a few steps back. "Haven't you seen that your Madame Qing Luo has met her lover, and has long thrown you all to the back of her mind?" Yan Xiaoyi's brows rose as she laughed in ridicule. "As long as Qing Luo is around, isn't meeting the Overlord anytime and anywhere? Today is a rare chance, let this loving couple spend some time alone." Saying that, the surrounding youngsters then reluctantly accepted, leaving the space for the two of them. After Xiao Jin and the rest dispersed the youngsters, they were also preparing to leave. After walking a few steps, they realized that Long Yunzhan was still standing at the original spot. His azure blue eyes were as still as water, staring at the two hugging each other, with an expressionless face. He sighed, as he went up and tugged Long Yunzhan's arm. "My group leader, let's go, let's go." Long Yunzhan's body stiffened, as he followed Xiao Jin's tugging, and left the inner courtyard. Not long later, the entire inner courtyard was only left with Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian. "Ah Xian, why are you here now?" Yiqing Luo raised her charming eyes, as the hand which was hugging his waist tightened. He was the overlord. His identity was mysterious and respectable. Appearing in front of this bunch of youngsters was to announce to them that he was in Three Springs City, and their relationship was completely exposed. It's not like I can't be seen, why can't I be here? Dmo Xian's brows rose, as his fingertips inserted into Yiqing Luo's hair, as he lifted a lock of hair. Her tone was cheerful and relaxed. It was as if she didn't feel that his actions were inappropriate. But, your identity is not very dangerous, the legend of the Nirvana realm, the number one for a long time, this kind of identity and gimmick, no matter where he went, he would become the target of certain people. In particular, he was backed by the number one force, the Imperial Palace. If the news that Dmo Xian was in Three Springs City was leaked out, he was afraid that his future days would not be peaceful. It's alright, these are your brothers, aren't they? Dmo Xian stretched out his finger and stopped Yiqing Luo from finishing her sentence. He gazed at the lovely girl in his arms. The woman had a bashful expression on her face. Her eyes were like silk, and there was a seductive charm between her brows. It stirred up his heart, and a faint heat flowed through it. Yiqing Luo's expression was startled. That was right, these were all students of the devil class, her team, her brothers. Dmo Xian appeared at the old mansion because he believed in her foresight and believed in the brothers she believed in. Actually because of Dmo Xian. She didn't even think about this aspect. It was said that after falling in love, one's IQ would drop in a straight line. Yiqing Luo now totally acknowledged this sentence. That's right, these are my brothers, they will absolutely not tell anyone about your matter. Yiqing Luo smiled. Suddenly recalling the expressionless Long Yunzhan who was pulled away by Qiao Jin earlier, she immediately explained, earlier that person is my class monitor, his name is Long Yunzhan. Don't just look at his expressionless face, actually he. Oh. Chapter 445. Yiqing Luo's pupils widened as she let out a moan. His gaze met with a pair of pitch-black, deep eyes. A whirlpool, as though it was going to suck her in. So deep. So thick. She wanted to struggle but Dmo Xian clasped the back of her head tightly as he deepened the kiss. Impenetrable, as though he wanted to plunder Yiqing Luo completely, swallowing her into his stomach. The thick masculine scent enveloped Yiqing Luo completely. As though it was a love net, firmly trapping her for life. This kiss made Yiqing Luo unable to struggle anymore. The next day, Yiqing Luo opened her eyes on time and was just about to get up when an arm was around her waist, pressing her down till she couldn't move. She glanced sideways, looking at Dmo Xian's peerless looks. No matter which angle she looked at him, he was that handsome. Especially when he was asleep, the lines on his face were even softer, adding some warmth. His hand encircled her waist. His leg pressed against hers. Yiqing Luo's entire body was encircled in Dmo Xian's arms. His scorching embrace, familiar breath, made Yiqing Luo feel dizzy for a moment. Every time she woke up, Dmo Xian's figure was no longer beside her. This was the first time, the moment she opened her eyes, she could see him. Yiqing Luo's lips curled up slightly as she stretched out her finger, circling around the contours of his face, drawing one by one. This hand just touched. Her wrist was grasped by a big hand. Dmo Xian opened that pair of demonic peach blossom eyes. Perhaps it was because he had just woken up, his eyes were covered with a layer of haziness. It made him look even more languid and alluring. You. Yiqing Luo's cheeks flushed, as though she was caught red-handed doing something bad, and immediately retracted her hand. But her wrist, which was grasped, couldn't struggle free no matter what. That pair of legs which was pressing against her slid forward. His whole body was on top of her. Yiqing Luo was stunned, as her cheeks flushed even redder. Stop fooling around, I still want. A kiss blanketed the sky and covered the earth, totally not giving Yiqing Luo any chance to struggle. Damn it. She woke up to a bed slam. Another hour passed as the commotion went on. Until Yan Xiaoyi knocked on the door outside. Qing Luo, yesterday you were the one who said you wanted to wake up early, but you're the last one. Even if the overlord is around, you need to be more reserved. Yiqing Luo couldn't voice out her bitterness. What did he mean by asking her to be more reserved? They should have asked Dmo Xian, that beast, to be more reserved. Yiqing Luo bashfully raised her fist and hammered hard on Dmo Xian's chest. Flipping over from the bed, Yiqing Luo used the fastest speed to finish washing up. Turning his head, he saw that the reserved animal had already put on the same set of black clothes. This was Qiao Jin's, and he had specially given it to Dmo Xian to wear last night. This set of clothes was specially designed to be tight-fitting, making it easier to move around. When Dmo Xian wore it, he was simply a model of abstinence. The clothes were obviously a little small, as it wrapped around Dmo Xian's well-built body, and those chunks of taut muscles could be seen vaguely. Yiqing Luo's face immediately turned red. You're prepared to go with us? Dmo Xian raised his brows. It's a rare holiday, I naturally have to accompany by your side. Wherever you go, I'll go. You're so ostentatious, can we still happily carry out the actual combat training? Although Dmo Xian was accompanying them, she was very happy in her heart. But after all, he was the overlord. If he were to interfere, then this round's training would completely change its flavor. She saw Dmo Xian slowly taking out a jade bottle from the profound dragon ring. Chapter 446. Not long after, when Dmo Xian turned around, what entered Yiqing Luo's eyes was an ordinary-looking face. It was so ordinary that one would forget it the very next second. The art of disguise could almost be mistaken for the real person. Even though she had seen Dmo Xian's disguise with her own eyes, Yiqing Luo was still unable to differentiate whether this face was real or fake. However, no matter how ordinary Dmo Xian's face was. His figure was tall and straight, and the majestic aura that he released could not be concealed no matter what. Especially that pair of peach blossom eyes, which were filled with charm. His otherworldly aura was enough to attract the gazes of countless people onto him. This isn't good. Yiqing Luo stared at Dmo Xian's face as she stretched out her hand and poked it. It felt exactly the same as a real face. What's wrong with that? Dmo Xian's brows rose as he held Yiqing Luo's little hand. In this way, you don't need to worry about being recognized. Yiqing Luo nestled in his arms. It was still the same person. His body temperature was still the same as before. The taste was still the same. But, this face, Yiqing Luo had a feeling that he was out of acting. What to do? Don't tell me. Lil Luo despises me for being ugly? Dmo Xian narrowed his eyes as he placed her hand on his face. Yiqing Luo shook her head. I'm just not used to it. Dmo Xian clasped her lower jaw and lowered his head to kiss her lips. Then I'll let you get used to this face up close, after all. For the 3 days of the holiday, you'll be facing this face. Yiqing Luo's resistance was forcefully swallowed by Dmo Xian. She whimpered and struggled, howling in her heart, damn it. How could there be such a habit? Finally, under Yan Xiaoyi's urging, the two of them walked out one after another. Yan Xiaoyi was just about to open her mouth to tease, but discovered that, the person behind Yiqing Luo. She didn't know him. A strange man. His figure was not bad, and his temperament was also not bad. However, that face was too ordinary. He was ugly, even uglier than Xiao Jin. Holy shit. She must have discovered something incredible. Yan Xiaoyi's suspicious eyes darted back and forth between the two. Under Yiqing Luo's puzzled gaze, she went up and nudged Yiqing Luo's arm as she whispered, not bad, Qing Luo. Last night you and the Overlord were so affectionate, and after just one night, the one who came out of your room was a different man. If the overlord were to find out about this, wouldn't he skin you alive? How dare he? Yiqing Luo snorted lightly as she glanced sideways at the man beside her. Look, the degree of this disguise, even Yan Xiaoyi was fooled. Skin them? How could I bear to? The man's mellow and deep voice rose slightly. His long arms stretched out as he pulled Yiqing Luo into his embrace, his squinted peach blossom eyes filled with a dense warning. He glanced askance at Yan Xiaoyi, and under his gaze, the latter shrunk her neck dejectedly and jumped a few steps to the side. This ordinary-looking man was His Excellency, the Overlord. She knew it. How would Qing Luo possibly go behind the Overlord's back to look for other men? Even if she were to look for someone, she should find a man who was more handsome than the Overlord. Dmo Xian scoffed lightly as he leaned close to Yiqing Luo's ear. His warm breath sprayed onto her earlobe. His low and hoarse voice was very low, very deep. Do you dare to get close to other men? I can't bear to skin you alive, but I can use other methods to make your waist and legs sore, so weak that you have no way to get close to any man. Yiqing Luo's lips twitched as her cheeks flushed red. Chapter 447. Your mother. Simply too beastly. Yiqing Luo pushed Dmo Xian aside and strode towards Yan Xiaoyi, holding her arm, and left the room. Before they reached the inner courtyard, they heard the youngsters' discussions. Our Madame Qing Luo and the Overlord really have that kind of relationship? Are you silly? It's so obvious and you can't tell? No matter how I feel, it's inconceivable. That's the Overlord. The Overlord. Who among the youngsters didn't know Dmo Xian? That mythical existence. Quite a number of families took Dmo Xian's portrait and worshipped him like a Buddha. But he actually appeared in front of them and even smiled at them. What do you mean by that? Could it be that sister isn't worthy of him? Kitty Lee gave a light humph. So what if he's the Overlord? It's his fortune that sister is willing to be with him. Kitty, don't you know who the Overlord is? He's the most powerful person in Nirvana realm. So what if he's the most powerful? Sister will surpass Nirvana realm in future and become one of the top 3. Stop quarreling. A cold and dignified voice interrupted the voices of the crowd. Long Yunzhan placed his hands behind his back as he walked out from the main hall with a pair of azure blue eyes, dull and cold. His vision swept past the youngsters present. What we need to do is to put our thoughts into training and raising our own abilities. As for other matters, it has nothing to do with you. How can it have nothing to do with me? Kitty Lee's brows creased as her ears shook. The reason why the students are discussing this topic is because they care about sister. Sister's happiness is also very important. Long Yunzhan's brows creased slightly as his icy cold gaze congealed towards Kitty Lee. He didn't say a word as he released an invisible pressure which made all the youngsters present hang their heads down. However, Kitty Lee seemed as though she didn't feel this pressure as she placed her hands on her waist and her petite face was filled with protection for Yiqing Luo. All right, why are you quarreling? Xiao Jin saw that the atmosphere wasn't right as he hurriedly tried to smooth things over. The Overlord and Qing Luo standing together, that's called a golden boy and jade girl, a match made in heaven. No matter how you look at it, they look so sweet and blissful, so what are you all worried about? Indeed. When I saw Lord Monarch Zun yesterday, I almost doubted the authenticity of the rumors. The way the Overlord looked at Qing Luo, it almost melted me, such a gentle expression. Lord Dizun is not the only one I want to suspect. One of the youths lowered his voice, his tone filled with uncontrollable mirth. Did you guys see that? Student Yi is usually so valiant in front of us. Powerful and intelligent. But, in front of Lord Dizun, he seems to be a different person. Right. Looking at His Majesty's smile, it's like flowers are blooming. At that moment, I finally realized that Student Yi is actually a girl. I agree. Yiqing Luo, who was standing at the corner, kept twitching when she heard that. She turned her head and stared at Yan Xiaoyi, who was laughing so hard that she couldn't stand up straight. Don't tell me I look like a guy usually. Actually, they're right. Yan Xiaoyi leaned against the wall and covered her mouth, trying her best not to laugh out loud. The you from yesterday was like a completely different person from your usual self. Like a completely different person? She didn't even know what she looked like in front of Dmo Xian. She obviously felt that there wasn't any difference from usual. Chapter 448. More like a woman? Yiqing Luo's heart trembled fiercely. Her cheek started to feel a burning sensation. All of you only know how to tease me. Yiqing Luo bit her lower lip as she gave a humph and walked towards the inner courtyard. On seeing Yiqing Luo's appearance, Long Yunzhan's vision was fixed on her. On discovering that there wasn't any other figure behind her, his tensed expression relaxed slightly. Long Yunzhan was just about to walk over when those youngsters who had already lined up started to tease. Student E is actually willing to get up, Overlord pinching you? Committee President Yan had already shouted twice before Student E finally arrived. Student E, you and Overlord. We're together for the entire night? The youngster's teasing words made Yiqing Luo's pretended solemn face turn completely red. No matter how thick her skin was, she was still a lady after all. Seeing that Yiqing Luo didn't rebuke them, the youngsters seemed as though they had been injected with chicken blood as they started to clap and laugh. Long Yunzhan's expression suddenly turned chilly. Hearing these students' words, his heart felt strangely stifled. A burst of unspeakable fury started to burn from the bottom of his heart. He didn't know why he was so angry, or why he had such a huge fluctuation in his emotions. This him wasn't like the original him. Long Yunzhan's brows creased slightly as his hands clenched into fists, suppressing the unhappiness in his heart as he spoke in a deep voice. We've already wasted a lot of time, let's set off immediately towards the Mercenary Association. The minute he said that, those youngsters who were still laughing and joking around immediately quietened down. Xiao Jin, who was standing by the side, saw Long Yunzhan's changes. His brows gradually furrowed into a ball, and his eyes darkened. Hearing that they were setting off, the youngsters' expressions immediately turned solemn as they prepared to set off. Wait a minute. Yiqing Luo suddenly recalled something as she couldn't be bothered to continue blushing as her fingers touched the ring, which was flowing with a demonic red glow. A huge wooden box dropped down from the profound phoenix ring. With a dong, it crashed onto the ground, causing the ground to tremble. Yiqing Luo opened the wooden box and saw that there were strips of black cloth in the box. While the youngsters were still clueless about what was going on, they heard Yiqing Luo saying, each of you take 4 gravitational belts and tie both your hands and legs. Other than sleeping, without our permission, you are not allowed to remove it. Gravity belt? The youths were dumbfounded. A young man walked forward and bent down to pick up the cloth. He had thought that it was just a strip of cloth. But how could it be a strip of cloth? This is way too heavy. Each belt has a weight of 20 kilograms. Yiqing Luo calmly glanced at that young man who was holding the gravity belt. Each person has 4. Come over to collect it. These gravity belts were inspired by the weight-bearing accessories in the profound phoenix ring. Changing these weight-bearing accessories into gravity belts was convenient and useful. The youths were about to vomit blood. Each fish weighed 20 pounds, so 4 of them weighed 80 pounds. They had to carry a weight of 80 kilograms every day to accept mercenary group missions? AO. Indeed, Madame Qing Luo only acts like a woman in front of the Overlord. Three Spring Cities Mercenary Association was the Mercenary Association's branch. To establish a mercenary group, they had to first register at the Mercenary Association and obtain the Mercenary Group badge before they could be considered to have established a mercenary group. They were about 2 hours away from the Mercenary Association. The mighty group of 60 over people used their own 2 feet to head towards the Mercenary Association. To put it nicely, walking was also a form of training. To these youngsters, a journey of 2 hours wasn't much pressure at all. Chapter 449. Looking at those few people in front, their footsteps were relaxed and they were brimming with energy. The youths all started to suspect whether the gravity belts on these few people were fake or not. Whereas at this moment, the few people who had been devastated by the youngsters' gazes were walking calmly. Long Yunzhan, Xiao Jin, Yan Xiaoyi, Mo Yuing and the others lined up in a row as they walked in front. Yan Xiaoyi occasionally spoke a few words to Mo Yuing while Mo Yuing listened on expressionlessly. Long Yunzhan was as indifferent as usual with an expressionless face. Only his peripheral vision would occasionally glance towards a certain direction behind him. Xiao Jin, who was by his side, had his brows furrowed with a troubled look, unlike the past where he was the livelier of the atmosphere. And behind these four people was Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian. The two of them seemed to be whispering something, and Yiqing Luo would occasionally laugh out, or raise her fists to punch Dmo Xian as her cheeks flushed red. Apparently, Dmo Xian was teasing Yiqing Luo again. The youngsters were mentally and physically exhausted. While they were physically and mentally exhausted, they still had to accept their dog abusing light waves. How could they live on? After walking for around 1 hour, the group of them arrived at the marketplace which they had to pass to reach the Mercenary Association. Because the mercenary groups had to head to the Mercenary Association to accept the mission, then return to the Mercenary Association to complete the mission and collect the reward. While the mercenary groups were completing the mission, they would conveniently bring back some items which could be sold for money and place them on this route which they had to pass by to trade. 1 or 2 mercenary groups did this, and following that, other mercenary groups followed suit. Over time, this place had formed into a marketplace for merchants to trade items. From the mercenary group's temporary stalls, it had evolved into merchants' shops as far as the eye could see. It was the first time for these youngsters to come to such a place. Seeing the bustling marketplace with a dazzling array of goods, all of their faces revealed a curious expression. Yiqing Luo saw this and pushed Dmo Xian aside as she took several quick steps forward. "Why don't we rest here for a while?" Xiao Jin and the others also surveyed the surroundings. The few of them had been sealed in Heavenly Academy for the past few years, not going anywhere else. Every month's holiday, they would return back to their own homes, accepting the supercilious looks from their family members, so where would they have the mood to go out? At this moment, when they saw this bustling place, their hearts started jumping with joy. Hearing Yiqing Luo's suggestion, he immediately nodded his head in agreement. More than 60 of them gathered together to shop in an orderly manner. It was too eye-catching. Moreover, these youths all had different hobbies. Yiqing Luo simply gave each of them a silver coin and warned them not to create any trouble. Kitty Li, Yifeng Yu and Ni Ruopen wanted to follow Yiqing Luo but were forcefully chased out. Long Yunzhan was not very interested in these things, so he went to the tea house alone, ordered a cup of tea, and sat there without saying a word. It was rare for Xiao Jin and the rest to have a chance to play, so they directly left Long Yunzhan behind. The 3 of them held hands and went to wander aimlessly in other places. Yiqing Luo was also interested in these, so she pulled Dmo Xian along and wandered around a few stalls. There were many kinds of items in the market, and they were all related to cultivation. There were also merchants who caught low-level magical beasts and put them in wooden cages to sell, attracting the attention of many young ladies. A few of the students from the devil class also crowded around at the side. Monster cores on sale, intermediate and above monster cores on sale at a low price. At the opposite side of the stall which was selling the magical beasts, a loud and clear cry was suddenly heard. Yiqing Luo looked towards the direction of the voice and saw a magical beast stall not too far away. A young man had one foot on a stool, as his hands kept on dancing. Chapter 450. Magic Beast Core. Yiqing Luo's interest was piqued. Previously in the Magic Beast Forest, because of the beast tide caused by Dmo Xian, Yiqing Luo had plundered quite a number of magic beast cores. She even added 3 to 4 magic crystals. She was looking for a buyer to sell these magic beast cores. Yiqing Luo walked to the stall and swept a glance at the stall. These magic beast cores were indeed not bad. All of them were intermediate and above, but there were a small number of low-grade magic beast cores. How much for one piece of low-grade and intermediate magic beast core? The young man beamed with joy when he saw business. Miss has a good eye, the magic beast cores in my stall are all high grade. Look at these 2 magic beast cores, the low grade is only 10 silver coins and the intermediate is 50 silver coins. Yiqing Luo frowned slightly. This price was definitely not cheap. Thinking back to the young man's solemn vow of, beat me up if it's not cheap, if he really sold the magic beast cores at this price, he would have been beaten up a few hundred times. Yiqing Luo put down the magic beast cores and looked up at him. Are you sure this is the price? Miss, this is definitely the cheapest price. The young man nodded hard, with a sincere look. You can rest assured and buy it. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as her vision swept one round. She had roughly guessed why the young man dared to be so unscrupulous, selling the magic beast cores at a high price. Because in the entire market, she estimated that there was only one magic beast core stall. The only magic beast core stall. If anyone was in urgent need of magic beast cores, they could only buy from this stall. Yiqing Luo curled her lips. Since this is the cheapest price, how about this? I have a batch of magic beast cores on hand, about 100 pieces, 30 over intermediate magic beast cores, the rest are all advanced magic beast cores. I will sell them to you at half of the price. How about that? Half. That was 5 silver coins for one piece of intermediate magic beast core, 25 silver coins for one piece of advanced magic beast core. Yiqing Luo's words had just ended. The young man's expression suddenly changed as he slammed the table. Are you deliberately finding fault? He slammed the table and immediately a large group of people dressed in the same attire rushed out from all directions. There were at least 20 people. They surrounded Yiqing Luo and the stall owner together. Their fiendish looks were extremely horrifying. Miss, how dare you make fun of my Iron Blood Warrior stall? If I don't teach you a good lesson today, how will I have the face to continue living in the marketplace? Predator? What kind of name is that? But Yiqing Luo had roughly guessed that this should be a gang who robbed and sold forcefully. As soon as the young man slammed the table, more than 20 people appeared. It was obvious that this was not the first time they had done something like this. In the entire market, there was only one monster core stall. It was most likely this group of people who had forcefully chased away all the other monster core stalls. Unexpectedly, the first stall she visited was a black-hearted stall. His luck was truly unparalleled. The conflict here immediately attracted the attention of the passers-by. The stall owners next door shook their heads helplessly. The predators have caught another young lady. These people are really too shameless. If we don't buy them, we will be forced to buy them. This is basically robbery. If this goes on, our marketplace's reputation will be ruined. That's right. Recently, our business has been implicated. If this goes on, I will have to change a place to set up my stall. You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.